Okay, thanks again for everybody for showing up. I'm like John said, they were getting used to these, and I apologize for my voice. This is probably my fourth meeting today, I think. So my voice is kind of shot. Um, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. And are there any public comments?
There are none.
Okay, and we're going to review the committee minutes from our March 10th meeting. And if you recall, I had mentioned, gee, maybe we should maybe try to do a practice e-learning day just for fun. And that was shot down. No, the kids want to be in school. They got AP prep, test prep. They got SAT. They got finals. No, we're not going to do that. Well, unfortunately, I got my wish and then some. So I apologize to everybody if you think I jinxed it and caused all this. So, and I'm trying to look at my phone for the, oh, there's the agenda now. I got it pulled up. Okay. The reason we're having the meeting at 6:45 today is because there's a lot of duplicate information with student services. So instead of having two separate meetings, we're going to kind of do our education piece first between now until 7 or whenever. And then we'll let the student services people join in, do the joint part, and then we'll go to the final piece, which is student services, which you can stick around for if you like, or knock off if you'd like to as well. So that's kind of the idea of what we're trying to accomplish tonight. So with that being said, I want to get started on the Ed Committee piece and regarding our curriculum instruction review of instructional materials. Kim?
All right, I am, whoops, I just gave away our ending slide here. I'm actually going to get started with Dr. Gonzalez. Dr. Gonzalez is going to walk us through a lot of our curriculum updates and some exciting things happening, even though we're not in school. We still are going on, and then we will spend a lot of time talking about a remote learning plan. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. We want to make sure we address all of them. Throughout all of this, you'll see a chat feature at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, please put your questions in there, and we'll be able to get through those throughout the night. Stacy, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you. Well, hello and good evening, everyone. So excited that I'm going to get to talk to you a little bit today about some of the updates in curriculum and instruction. So just as a reminder for you that our district, I'm going to kind of go over a couple of the board policies that we use to ensure that we have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, along with our instructional materials. And so you're going to see a little bit tonight about what that looks like for us on our end of things. So first thing I want to share with you is we have something internally that we call our curriculum advisory. And something that's kind of cool about this, and why I'm sharing this screenshot with you, this is actually a screenshot. Mr. Connolly usually isn't at this meeting with us, but Michelle and I co-share this committee, and along with John Connolly. A couple of years ago, we included our teacher advisory committee, our technology advisory committee, as a part of our curriculum advisory committee, and combined those as things kind of started to overlap. And so this is our home screen, and this committee consists of teachers from every curricular area, along with our curriculum leaders and our division chairs, along with our associate principals of instruction. And so what's really kind of cool is that this year we really made a commitment to start utilizing both independent days or asynchronous learning days, along with synchronous learning days. So what's pretty cool about this is you can see on the screen that, for example, September was our first meeting of this year for curriculum advisory. Everything's linked in there. But the way we did that was independent. So people went in, they responded to our discussion boards, our questions, some of those types of the thing. Then you can see in October, we actually held a virtual live meeting like we're doing tonight. And so kind of ironic how we've come full circle where we're actually holding our Ed Committee meeting tonight virtually. So I thought that that might be pretty cool for you to see that John and I, and with Michelle's help in our association, really brought forward this idea of we think we could meet virtually, and are pretty excited that it's gone as well as it has now that we really are in this virtual live environment. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. Next, I want to just talk a little bit about the way we look at our instruction and then our instructional materials as a reminder. So everybody should have gotten an email with our some of the materials, but I just want to remind you, in this ed committee, a lot of policies come through, and so we take it really serious that we make sure that we're adhering to our district and our curricular policies. So this policy about our comprehensive curriculum, we make sure that it's aligned with our goals, that our student needs are being met. So this is really important. This is kind of the cornerstone of all the work that we do as far as the learning pieces. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that today we're going to talk a little bit about the instructional materials. And so this is our policy that we talk, that shares with us how we adopt and how we think about our instructional materials. And so everyone on the ed committee should have received an email from me this weekend. I believe Trish forwarded it to everyone. And on that email was our materials for review. And so the way this process works is we bring that to our curriculum advisory. That's that first slide you saw of our virtual space. Then we share it with you as our ed committee members to review and to look at. And then it goes to our board meeting, which after our board meeting, those materials sit for 30 days, open for anyone in the public that would like to review them. And then after that, they're officially adopted by the district. And what that means is that any teacher, depending on their curricular area, would be able to utilize those resources. So on the next slide, you'll see what was sent to you. So for our education courses, those are aligned with Loyola University. There's 3 textbooks that you'll notice are a part of that curriculum. There's 2 courses, 3 textbooks. So those, because that's a dual credit course, typically if we're gonna vet a textbook, we'll compare potentially to some other textbooks within the same realm. But in this case, because we're fully adopting that course, those 2 courses from Loyola, as well as our Western Civilization course with Moraine Valley, we simply are going to be adopting the textbooks that align with the curriculum from those universities. In addition, 3 of our new senior English courses have some resources. So our graphic novels course for our one of our senior English courses, there are 12 novels that were up for review. Now, when you see 12 novels, that does not mean that all 12 of those novels are guaranteed to be used within the curriculum as a resource. It may be 1 of those or 2 of those or a couple of those, but there's some choice in there based on both teacher and student interest. Modes of rhetoric and discourse, that actually, I should have put that in parentheses, that actually is our dual credit course with Moraine Valley. The name of our course is Modes of Rhetoric and Discourse. The Moraine Valley course has a different name. Doesn't matter, just the point of that is that there's a nonfiction resource that we need for writing. And then Chicago literature, it's really hard to find nonfiction resources for Chicago literature. We have a Chicago history course, and so they have a couple of fiction works that they use already in that course without wanting to overlap. So we were able to find a short story anthology. And then our computer applications course, which is dual credit with Moraine, we have a book, and this is just the updated version of that book. So you all should have been able to access and see that information. At this time, I'd like anybody on the call who has any questions about the materials if I can answer those, or if you can go ahead and put those in the, if you don't feel like unmuting your microphone, feel free to use that chat button down below, and you can type in any questions that you might have at this time, or unmute your microphone. So I'm using the teacher pause wait time, which is especially awkward in virtual learning.
Well, it sounds like we're good to go to the next.
Okay, great. So as far as our curriculum updates, we've been, there's been so much happening, but I'm really pleased with how hard our staff continues to work on just ensuring that we have that guaranteed and viable curriculum. So senior English teacher teams still continuing to work, review, build our courses for next year. Dr. Dreyer and I actually had a meeting today with some math teachers just to really kind of go over what does math 1 through 3 need to look like relative to everything that's kind of happening, making sure we're continually reassessing our curriculum. Really proud to say that our senior math transitional courses, so we have, if you remember, we have a STEM-based course called Functions and Modeling. We heard early a little on we haven't gotten an official word, but somebody on the state panel emailed us and told us that our course has been approved, which that STEM course, a lot of other schools were getting denials. So we're real proud of that. And then our our application mathematics course, which is our quantitative literacy course, is conditionally approved. We've just got a little bit more work that we need to do, and our teachers are working through that. Education courses, now that we know we're ready to go, we've got the classes running, our teachers are coordinating together, really working on that intro to education, exploring education, and our internship in education to kind of really bring those 3 courses together. And then some excitement about our sports and entertainment marketing course and the work that they're doing around that in conjunction with what that can look like next year at Andrew. I think Andrew and Stagg both have sections running, and really looking to make a segue between
7 o'clock
between that and esports. And then finally, just want to give you a little bit of an update on you can go to the next slide, on our career and technical education. So we have been working on what's called a comprehensive local needs assessment. And if you go to the next slide, you will see kind of where we're at in this process. So since October, November, we really have started to look at our data, look at all of the information about our career and technical education students locally in our district, along with the 7 other districts that our CTE funding and everything flow from. And so now we're kind of taking an approach of who are our students that really need support relative to CTE, and how do we design a 4-year plan for those students? How do we address the needs that our students have? One of the things that was really interesting when we examined the data is the data were really clear that students who were in CTE courses outperformed their non-CTE peers, both in English and in math. So we felt like that was something for us to be really proud of. And we're going to work through what are the things that we believe, what are the learning intentions, what are the areas of the why we think that's happening, and really try to now capitalize on what that looks like. So that May 1st date, that's been stretched a little bit by the state, but we're continuing to build that in regards to our local needs assessment for CTE. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dreyer if there are no questions.
Okay.
Hearing none, real quick, this is the part of the meeting now where it pertains to both education and student services for the remote learning as well as school improvement plan. So again,
Yes.
Dr. Dreyer, sorry to step on your toes, but Just want to remind everybody where we're at. So this is the part where we're all together now. Heard that a lot
Yay.
lately.
Okay. All right, friends. So these next few slides are going to be talking a lot about what we've been doing as a district to support our students, our staff, and our families during our remote learning time. So this is basically how we're working things. And I know many of you who have students with us have already seen this, but our school day, our remote learning days are 9 to 3. Our students and our staff are expected to sign in by 10 o'clock. Basically, the big chunk between 10 and 11:30, staff members and students have dedicated time to meet together. In fact, we carved this out after we found out that we would be spending more time in a remote learning environment a few weeks ago. Mondays and Wednesdays, we host periods 0, 1, 3, and 4 between 10 and 11:35, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays our other 4 periods between 10 and 11:35, and then Fridays have become a day where our teachers get to work with our students on enrichment and intervention types of activities. We also have staff PLC time and department time. So we have found that Friday to be immensely important in giving our staff the ability to work together to talk about how they're meeting the needs of the students in a remote learning, what type of activities they're doing, and it has been extremely beneficial to allow our staff more time to work together and in their departments. And then again in the afternoon, that connect piece, working with our advisory students as well. We spent a lot of time talking about grading. As most of you know, the governor put out some pretty good guidelines in regard to what grading looks like. And to sum it up pretty quickly, grades as of March 13th are the grades that students should be getting unless they do something to make their grades better, but they can't necessarily get worse grades than what they had on March 13th. Nor can they receive any failing grades. So students therefore would get incompletes. So as of March 13th, if students continued to progress nicely, they would get the grades that they had on March 13th or better. If students had pretty solid grades and then kind of didn't do anything for the rest of the semester, that would trigger our teachers calling home, engaging the parents, engaging our PPS team, re-engaging the students to get them more involved so that they don't risk getting an incomplete. If students were receiving failing grades as of March 13th, we are working with those students right now to ensure that they're working on getting those grades to a passing grade. So our PPS teams are monitoring these students extremely closely, making sure that they're getting the supports that they need, trying to engage them as much as possible, while also recognizing and balancing the needs of students as well. Frankly, we know that this is an extremely difficult time for our students, and this may come as no surprise to you, but District 230 has been handling grading with much compassion and much empathy. We recognize that our students are living through a time that none of us have ever lived through, and we don't know what's going on in all of our students' homes right now. We have students that potentially are working or living with or surviving some form of disease or COVID-like symptoms, or their family or grandparents or parents, and we are supporting them. We have students whose parents might be temporarily out of work and have financial strains that they haven't had before. So you know, we have guidelines for grading, but I really would like to stress to both of these committees that I am extremely proud of the work that our teachers and our administrators are doing in supporting our students with this. this is not a time for us to catch students or look at students that are being non-compliant. It's a time to support students, and we really are doing that first. In regard to instruction supports that are being put in place, again, our Fridays have been a huge support in regard to our PLCs, our professional learning communities. Our staff have been able to meet together. They've been able to talk through a lot of that grading. They've been able to talk through, what types of assignments are you doing? What type of work are you doing? The department meetings have been critical as well. So our department chairs are able to lead conversations and meaningful conversations and talk significantly about what are the essential components that students need to know from now to the end of the year, because we know it just isn't possible to get through everything. The building principals have had the capacity to meet more frequently with their staff as well to support them building-wide through this time as well. Stacy continues to meet with the DCs weekly, focusing on the essential components, focusing on assessments, and working on understanding grading, and really more on what it is we need students to know from now to the end of the year. We continue to meet with our assistant principals of instruction, and our district meetings continue every week. Folks joke a lot, kind of like, what are educators doing? I don't think we've seen each other more than we do now as we Zoom more frequently. We are constantly talking about ways to support our staff, our students, and these meetings haven't missed a beat. In the area of assessment, pretty much all of our state assessments have been canceled. Except for the SEL Literacy, we've had retake starting last week. AP exams are also going to be scheduled. These are exams that students can take at home. The SAT was canceled. The science assessment was canceled. The DLM for our significantly disabled students was canceled. We canceled our final exams, and the fitness gram, which is our PE assessment, was also no data is being gathered this year. Again, not surprising to folks on this committee, our SEL supports were extremely important and remain extremely important. Back in March, when we first were in talks of having remote learning, we pulled together several committees pretty quickly. One committee worked on advisory lessons, and the advisory lessons were meant to support teachers working with their students who are dealing with anxiety, who are dealing with the unknown, who are dealing with how to cope with stress. So we supplemented those lessons. And again, many of our staff members are very comfortable having those conversations. Some of our staff needed some guidelines to support the students in that respect. We also sent a lot of supports home. At the very beginning, we sent a letter home to parents. We've engaged them in resources in the community. If their students were struggling, if they were struggling, not only socially and emotionally, but financially. We also asked our students and our parents to complete a survey if their student or the student, him or herself, were struggling, and just kind of asked them to kind of grade themselves on their struggle. Do you need to talk to somebody today or within a couple of days? And then the PPS staff did a tremendous amount of work on prioritizing the students and seeing students. From those surveys, I would say district-wide, about 100 students were identified as needing to be seen by their counselor or social worker, and our staff was able to really get those students spoken to and assessed and followed up with appropriately. We've also taken measures to support our staff. We know that our staff are working in unique situations. We have asked a couple of our retired social workers and teachers to come back, and they've been running groups once a week for our staff that want to pop in on how to deal with stress and anxiety. One of our teachers, Mary Swanson over at STAG, is doing game night every Thursday night for staff. We have daily mindfulness every morning and yoga after school for some of our teachers. So we've been keeping our staff pretty busy and supported as well. Our PPS team is also monitoring our attendance very closely of our students. Students that were not engaged have been already identified, and our PPS staff has identified those students and have gone through very unique ways to engage with the students. Many times is to check in on them to make sure that they're okay. They've been missing for a week or so. So they've been in touch with the students. They're working on the students. They monitor the attendance extremely closely, making sure that all the students are accounted for. Our attendance throughout this has ranged between 93% pretty much every week until last week. It dipped down to about 89% that students are checking in. And then college and career, we know our students are worried about their transcripts going to college. So our guidance directors and some of our counselors have been hosting webinars. You might have seen it on Twitter. Really just kind of open forums, getting questions from students and making sure that they have those supports along the way as well. And then our special populations, really focusing on the connectedness for our most significant students in special education and our EL students, making sure we're touching base with families, with our students, making sure they're connected, focusing on the learning, what we need students to learn. Our ultimate teachers have done an unbelievable job supporting our students. I know we've had some conversations here about that, or at least at Student Services. And every day they're reaching out to the parents. They are engaging with the students, and it's been going better than expectations. And then John Connolly and his department with the tech support has been outstanding, making sure everybody has what they need, particularly some of our students that are in financial strain. We make sure that they have their hotspots so that access has not been an issue for any of our students. Next steps, really what we need to work on is our transition, and our transition plan is in progress. And again, we have many areas. We're looking at the academic piece. How are we going to get 1.25 years into a 1.0 year? So we know that we have to recoup, and we need to get everything in that we need to. So that's significant. We continue to work on SEL. We need people to come back into the building feeling safe. We know tensions are going to be high, anxiety is going to be high. Our curriculum and instruction is going to be significant. And tech, how are we going to get our new Chromebooks out? How are we going to onboard all of those pieces? So that's already in progress. So I'm going to pause, see if there's any questions, any suggestions, any ideas, anything you guys want to add or have questions about.
Hi, this is Kim. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. I just wanted to ask you from a grading perspective. I know I do agree that the teachers have done a fabulous job with respect to all of that. Some of the grades are coming through in the remote learning section of 0%. I suspect that's to make sure that grades don't dip, but will they be doing any additional adjustments there to enable students, say, to go from a B to an A or an A to an A+ based on their remote learning effort?
It's my understanding, yes, Kim, that grades can't go down, but they can go up.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that there were enough points coming in to actually adjust something if it were warranted. Because when it shows as 0% on the remote learning section, it doesn't change the percentage on Skyward.
You probably need to have a direct conversation with the teacher to see what they're grading, how they're grading and what their grading scale is. It depends on what grading scale the teacher is using, but have a conversation with the teacher, Kim.
Okay, but in general, there is an expectation that they could go up.
I don't know if it's
Kim, this is Bob Nolting.
Yeah,
Oh.
Go ahead, Bob.
So I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm using my phone for the first time, so I'm not sure I'm doing anything right. But
That's okay.
That's so there is in a grade book capacity, there's probably 2 or 3, maybe 3 models that I've seen. And there's a little bit of confusion out there, but I think the teacher is doing a great job of trying to illustrate how the grade book looks. But I have not yet seen a teacher's system as we shifted to remote learning that doesn't have some level of ability for students, if they do the work, assuming they do the work, to progress their grade along. We do have a model that it sounds like it fits what you're describing, that essentially those points are accumulated and then will be enhancing the grade kind of at the end of the close of the semester.
Yeah, like a manual adjustment. Okay,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
what I
And
was looking for. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So that's I'm guessing that's the model that you're describing, but there is probably 3 models that I've seen, that being one of them.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
There's a
Kim,
question in the
there
chat.
is, Kim?
There's a question in the chat saying, how is the student energy maintained as e-learning weeks have progressed?
How is the energy maintained?
How
This is Bob.
student energy?
I'm
Go ahead, Bob.
I'm sorry. This is Bob again. I it's been surprisingly better than I expected. I think the hardest adjustment was, frankly, going to an act of God period of a probably six days, and then you add it on to our spring break. I think the adjustment back was the toughest part. I think right now I've been very pleasantly surprised as to the momentum that's been carried since we kind of got about a 3 to 4 day re-engagement period that was a little bit dicey at times, but I think after that it's been really impressive. I give all the credit to the teachers who have been doing amazingly creative things to get engaged, and I think all 3 buildings you see things that are a little bit above and beyond in terms of social media campaigns, school virtual events, things like that I think we just needed to keep reminding parents and students that we're still here and we're still working, and once they got that, it's been pretty good.
Shelley
Yeah,
or
and
Michelle,
would-
do you have it? Oh, sorry, I was going to ask Shelley and Michelle if they have anything to add from the classroom perspective as well. Sorry, Eric, as principals also.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
we've had a lot of luck and a great amount of help from the DCs and the counselors for some students who, I think it was like Bob said, initially it was kind of jarring and a little bit rocky at first, and now I think things are moving pretty slowly as, kids are getting used to, okay, here's what the schedule is. I think kids would prefer probably to have the classes at nighttime, since some of them don't like getting up in the morning. And that seems to be the most frequent report I get is like, oh, sorry, Miss Atchett, I just rolled out of bed. And I'm like, okay, you can turn your screen off. We don't need to see you, whatever you want to do. But they seem to be, everybody's like kind of getting the hang of it now. Not that we want them to really get in the hang of it, because we just want to be back, but I think things are going a lot better now. Sorry, Shelley, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say from my classes and from talking in my PLC groups and department groups, the vast majority of kids are doing awesome, are, really just meeting this as they need to and working hard. And, I've seen a lot of improvement in many of my students' grades as we've been going along. And with the students who are, somewhat disengaged, I have had great success in talking to parents. We have this feature that I believe it came out through the TIFs and John Connolly through the technology, but this feature where we can make phone calls through our cell phone or our home phone that show up as a District 230 phone call. So I was having some issues where the phone calls just showed up as, just blank phone calls, and then people weren't answering them. But once it came up as District 230, they were answering them. I've had some really good conversations with parents, and oftentimes the parents maybe weren't aware that the kids were like, yeah, it's all fine, and then just helping to get the kids back on track. And by and large, it's been pretty good. It's been a process, but it's been good.
Great.
And then I just wanted to add, just kind of from my perspective, that every time I send out an all-parent email, I get a flurry of both parent emails and student emails. And I think, the engagement is kind of reflective of the news cycle, right? And so when it came out that we were, out of school for the remainder of the year, there was a bit of a dip, and then sent out an email saying, right, our schools are still alive, we're still learning, guys. And then students would say, okay, fine, I'm back. But the one really interesting thing that I think is important to share is students really miss their teachers. And I've seen on more than one email is students that just said, I just want to come back and have class with my teacher again. It's very, very sweet, but we assume that everything is just natural in the virtual world for students, but the reality is many students just crave that contact, so it's a little more difficult for them. And our teachers and our PPS staff have really just done an absolutely amazing job of really, really trying to work with kids to get them re-engaged and encourage them along. Really kudos to all of them.
I think Michelle and Shelley will agree that I think all of us, once we put this schedule together, because it was a little discombobulated, once we got like a normal schedule, it became looking like school a little bit more. And it became like this is the new normal right now for a while. And I think that we saw our numbers go back up. The dipping maybe a little bit with seniors, I don't know. And we'll look into that, they're a little less, a few weeks to go. So, yeah, the engagement I think has been positive, and I do agree with what everyone said. I think the schedule, the reaching out, and I think the Fridays have been invaluable for the teachers to reach out to kids for all levels, not just disengaged students, but kids who may just need to talk to somebody, and not in maybe a large group of Zoom, but maybe need a one-on-one conversation.
The next piece that I want to go through quickly is professional development support. We're kind of building a plane while we're flying it in motion here. So we've had just wonderful professional development support going on. So you'll see some workshop series that Stacy has organized, Dr. Gonzalez has organized. There's 3 workshop series, 2 workshop series. The feedback from these that have been in progress so far has been outstanding. John Connolly has organized TIF training, our tech innovators, and every week they do a new topic. So you can see they started with social and emotional needs, sharing out success, student engagement, assessment, and screening records, screen recording, and communication. So those have been very full as well, and just fantastic supports. And then lastly, over in the corner, Dr. Wheaton and I have been working with about 30 of our ESPs on a micro-credentialing program during this time on communication. So we've been meeting with them Friday. We've developed our own PLC. We've been working with Bloomboard to assist our ESP staff on earning a micro-credential during this time. So a lot of things going on to support our staff during this as well. Summer programming, there might be some questions with this. Luckily, right, we've already talked about this here a few times, Dr. Gonzalez has at least. We were scheduled to be a remote learning environment for summer school to begin with. So Dr. Gonzalez had us all set up. She has been really brilliantly preparing us for this. So we're ready to rock and roll virtually this summer. So we're pretty good. We're pretty good to go. Extended school year, not so much. We had to do some fast tracking and reassessing. We will have to be virtual with our extended school year, which is more unfortunate for the students than anything else. But Ms. Schulman is working on that with our special education DCs. Our EL program, we were supposed to host at Moraine Valley this year. We needed to do that virtually as well. So Mr. Palacios is working with Stacy to do that virtual as well. And then our APs are working on enrichment opportunities for our students. So we will be hosting them. The enrichment is just being figured out still, how we're going to do that virtually. and EL will be communicated when we have that a little bit more solidified, and extended school year is in the process of being communicated to parents. And then seal of biliteracy, I know we've talked about this at both committees, so I'm gonna ask Edgar to kind of give us an update on where we are with this. Wait till you guys hear this. This is fantastic data here. Edgar, can you see the full screen, or you can move that around, right?
We need to minimize it a little bit just because the faces, our faces kind of cover a little bit, but
can you you can move the faces. I think you need to move it on your screen.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Move it up and it'll go across.
great. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Edgar.
Good to see everyone. So, if you recall, last fall we came to you to kind of give you a wrap up of the 2019 sealed by literacy numbers, and you'll see some of those there. I mean, you'll see all of them for Sandburg, Stagg, and Andrew, and for the district as well. And part of the conversation that we had back then was, hey, we're thinking of doing two windows for this testing. And in all honesty, at that time, there were some concerns about doing it that early. And so now as we move forward into the spring, I wonder if our numbers had been this great if we had just left that one window in March. And we'll talk about this window a little bit, but I want to bring your attention over to the green side all the way to the right, and you'll see the totals there. And back when we presented the first time around on the seal, we were projecting some pretty big numbers. And so you can see how overall for the district, we saw an increase not only on commendation, and for those of you that don't know what commendation is, that is probably the first step it's the first step of receiving an award when you have just about mastered the second language, but you just kind of fall short in that language testing. And just as a reminder, we've done STAMP. We also transitioned from a different testing to STAMP this year. And if you look at our SEAL numbers also have gone up considerably across the district. So if you want to look more through those for each individual schools, all schools have noticeable increases, and so we're super proud of that. Very excited about what's to come in future years. And as we move to this testing window, I'll shift it over to Charles, who I think is on there too, and he'll talk to you a little bit about a little bit of an audible that he threw in there, which at first I will tell you I was a little bit skeptical about this, about doing testing online and with proctors online. Charles, are you on there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Do you want to talk a little bit about the virtual testing?
Sure. Yeah, we felt fortunate actually that we were able to get our second window in on March 11th, right before all this started. But we did have a number of students that we knew would want to take retakes based on their March 11 results, and we had a handful of students who also wanted to try to test for 2 different languages, and so we were counting on having a second date in April. So when we left school and we're on remote learning, we explored with Avant Assessment, who is the company that runs the STAMP test. We explored remote proctoring with them, and so we just started testing this past week. We, I think, have tested maybe around 20 students across 3 schools with retakes, and we've been doing virtual proctoring with our support staff via Zoom, and we have 5 or 6 students who are taking the full STAMP test through a third-party proctoring service that Avant Assessment has. So we were able to actually test all the kids that we wanted to in the first place, and so far we're getting some good results. I know from Stagg and Sandburg, as of last week, we did have a few kids that earned the seal and the commendation with the retakes. And I believe Andrew is testing this week. And so hopefully we'll have a few more to add to the list.
So we will have 149 students that will receive that recognition on their transcript as well as their diploma. We will have to get a little bit creative when we're talking with guidance directors about how to get those seals on those diplomas, as well as those that have a commendation as well, to make sure that we have that language in their transcript as well. Any questions about SEL biliteracy?
Thank you,
All right.
Edgar.
All right,
right,
thanks, Edgar. Kim, this is the part
Yep.
where we're going to transition over to Chairperson Gracias to take us home.
Yes.
Welcome everyone from Student Services. Thank you for joining us tonight. So far we're getting a lot of great information. Thank you, Edgar. That was really awesome to hear about how many successful students got the SEL this year. I'm very impressed with how that program grew. So take it away, Kim.
Sure. So just a couple updates on some of our special programs. Edgar, do you want to talk about the ombudsman contract, or do you want me to do that?
I can talk about it, Kim. Ombudsman contract is actually all three of these items are something that you have heard before. Ombudsman contract is just a contract that we sign with Ombudsman to secure a certain amount of seats for those students that can perform well in our regular education classes. So I believe this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, we are signing 8 for 8 slots. Is that correct?
I think I went with 6, Edgar.
Okay. So in any case, when we reserve 6 slots, it just basically allows us to have 6 students there, but we can also increase it or decrease it however as needed throughout the year. And those shift as students complete their credits and graduate, or complete their program and they can return to their school. Did I leave anything out there, Kim?
Nope.
All
Sounds
right.
good, Edgar.
The second piece is the consolidated district plan, and this is again something that we have brought to you before. Last year, it was the first requirement, and it was the first time that it was a requirement for any federal money that comes to District 230 in the form of grants. As you can tell, every one of those tabs on top is a page or multiple pages. So to make John Conley happy and to spare everyone of tons of paper, I just have the visual of what it is that we're bringing before you. So from left to right under the overview tab, the needs assessment is basically our S4 plan, and what all grants want to know is your S4 plan aligned to what ISB and what the grants ask to have, and they want for us to highlight what needs we have and how are we going to serve those needs and those students that have specific needs through that federal money. Stakeholders is the reason why we bring it to the board and we bring it to you. It's because we need to inform you every year that we're developing this plan and that we are intending to spend this in alignment to all of our goals. Private school participation is just another requirement where if there are any private schools in the area that have some of our students that are low income or ELs or special ed students, we have to have consultations with them, and we have to establish programs in some grants or establish a way to help them through the use of those funds. Preschool, we don't have that, but those are some of the things that other districts that are consolidated have to answer. Student achievement is everything that deals with data. What are some of our goals with our students, and how do we intend to improve the achievement of those students? College and career, same thing. It's just how do we intend to get students more involved with college and career goals? Professional development, this pertains to how we plan to leverage the money to retain and to develop our teachers and our principals. Safe and learning environment, we typically don't use that money. What we do is we transfer it over to Title I and Title II. but we could potentially use that as well. Title I specific pages just deals with low-income students. IDEA deals with special ed students and how that money is going to align to improve the achievement of those students. Foster and care is not something that that pertains to our district, and that's basically the consolidated district plan. There's not much more to it. It is just a way for us to forecast for ISB the way that we intend to use our money. And one of the ways that we always talk about, and Dr. Gonzalez talked about, was how we will offer a viable curriculum to all students. So, any questions about consolidated district plan? All right. The last one is also another item that has come to you in the past. The waiver, the school-wide waiver, is something that we started about 2 years ago for Stagg High School, and basically what that says is that we are intending to use all Title I money to impact the entire school. Prior to 2018, Stagg was under a program that basically focused the money just on the staff and students that were low income. And if you recall, it came to about 540 students. So in order to maximize that money that was coming through Title I, we decided to apply for this waiver. And the reason we need to apply for this waiver is because Stagg still is under the 40% threshold of low income. If they ever reach past that, then we won't have to do that. But this year, they are at 35%, I want to say. I know that it's on there, 35.9. Any questions about the waiver? All right.
All right.
Well, thank you, everyone.
All right, so special ed, we've been busy doing some things for our transition program for those students that have met their graduation requirements but are not yet taking their diploma. At this point in time, a little bit earlier in the year, we talked about a program at Moraine Valley to assist students in navigating the campus and getting into contact with the different resources that are available there. Just a little update there. We've hired the teacher for that program, and last week we held a Zoom meeting to review what that program will look like for parents, and it was pretty well attended by parents, and we've gotten some good questions and whatnot from that meeting last week. We've also done our transition specialist grant application along with a secretary for that position. That person will assist students with getting connected to the Department of Rehabilitation Services. Also, we have applied for the STEP grant, which will help with our vocational program in our buildings. So we've hired the transition specialist. Tomorrow they are going to be working on doing interviews for the job coaches, but we're moving in the right direction with all of those programs and looking forward to seeing what they will look like in the future.
Thanks, Lisa.
Any questions?
Thanks, Lisa.
Yep.
All right. Melissa, I'm sorry, I can't have the agenda up and the presentation up at the same time. I'm sorry. Okay, are you ready for me to go on to the handbook? Okay, everybody's favorite moment. This year is going to be real easy because our handbook is online. So we don't have to go through the handbook like we used to and find all of our corrections and whatnot, because as corrections come in, we just go online and change them. But what I did want to bring to your attention is that we are going to have some changes in our handbook, and that's based on all the policies that have come through here. So we have significant policies that are impacting our kids going into next year when we return. And so I've already updated all of those for next year's handbook. So when this is updated, when we hit the switch for next year, those policies are going to be in there. For example, if you recall, particularly student services, we did some significant changing to our attendance language. So all of this is going to be replaced with our new language, including the makeup work, the tardy procedures, and truancy. So the new version will have the tardy procedure in here. You're going to see some policy tonight that is for our code of conduct. That's relevant to our handbook. So that will be updated in our handbook. So any of the new policies that we've seen that are relevant to the handbook will be in here. I think we might have updated a couple discipline policies. So I'm not going to go through all of these because the policies are the policies, but I just wanted to just remind you, those are the changes that we're making. I know a few meetings ago, I did ask if any, for you guys to look through the handbook online, if there were any questions, anything that you guys saw that looked a little bit out of place, or questions about, or suggestions. Now would be the time to bring that up. So I wanted to open that up if anyone had any questions.
Kim, I apologize earlier. My mouse went dead, so my daughter brought me back.
No worries.
That's why I couldn't unmute myself.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
That's fine. So I did have a question with our new all in attendance. I thought we were going to try to work on maybe tweaking it, things like that. Would that still be under review all summer before we actually put it onto the handbook website, or is it in there as it stands now and then we can tweak it?
So it's in there as it stands now, but I think given COVID-19, we're going to have to wait to see what happens before we do anything with attendance, Melissa.
Makes sense.
It's just kind of on hold.
Okay, perfect. And will this also be part of how we're going to be able to update these policies as they come? How we hired out this other company to kind of help us with updating our verbiage, things like that, then will it automatically be done now every year?
Some of it will be. The policies in the part of the handbook, if you look at the left, there's the policies and notifications.
Correct.
Those will all be swiped out every time if any of our policies are updated.
Okay.
But through the through the handbook materials, like the adapted PE, this little blurb here is in policy, so that wouldn't be updated.
Right. Okay.
So if it's not part of that policy, or even actually what I just had up a minute ago under PPS, the compulsory attendance isn't linked to the compulsory school attendance policy 770 is linked, but our APs are not linked. So we have to go in and manually do the APs if there's any changes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on policy or handbook? Oh, that was the easiest handbook review I think I've ever done. Mr. Saratori, are you happy about this? Oh, maybe is he still here?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah. It's great.
It's great.
I can actually see it too.
All right.
All right, I'll ask a question then. Is there a way we can get a handbook that shows the differences, what was struck out from last year and what's new for this year or something like that, so we can compare what's changed? Sorry, you asked, aren't you?
We see a lot of it, like in our minutes from our meetings. Like each month, they bring it to our committee, and we can see the redactions, the verbiage changes. But we really are trying to do away with a lot of this unnecessary.
I could ask Carla, because the handbook revisions are online. I could ask her if there's a way to do that, Pat.
Yeah, just in one aggregate instead of month to month. It's not a big deal. I just wonder if it's possible. That's it.
Couldn't you possibly like put it in a different color? Like when we get the policies every month, all the changes are kind of in red or lined out. So could you just do the same thing for, I don't know, when you?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for, Tony. Exactly.
Dr. Gay, do you know if there's a way to do that?
I was just thinking, I know we've never done in the past. We've always gone to handbook review and made our changes of commas and periods. And sometimes most of it is just 95% is just policy and making sure the policy is update. In the past, we used to have like a disclaimer when it went to print as of May 1st, and if things changed, it was obsolete. Now with the new handbook being online, it's always updated month to month. But again, I just think it's mainly policy. I don't really think, besides commas and sometimes verbiage, like, we'd argue about a sentence structure.
Yeah, a lot of it's language, right.
Yeah.
The majority of the changes are policy changes, which we see monthly anyway, correct?
Which we don't have control over.
Right.
And we do, but I'm saying once it's board approved, this is automatic. It's not like, so I don't know. I'm thinking back how we did it the old way. We'd have all our handbooks, and we'd be underlining our own handbooks, and highlighting them. So
I thought it might be easier if it's digital, but it's not. That's fine. It's not a big deal. I was just wondering if it's possible. And it actually leads you to another question. So when a student and parent signs the handbook that they received at the beginning of the year, and then we make changes throughout the year, are they still being held to those changes, or do we have to wait till they sign a new agreement?
No, I think the things they say, they're signing the handbook. It's always been as is, because when the handbook went out before, it said as of May 1st, and if things change, this policy already supersedes. So online, the policy will always be updated. What we could do in the event, we can always just get a correspondence out by saying, policies have changed, and that's what we've done in the past.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Pat, if we do anything significant with the policies that impact students, I can't think of any that we've done mid-year without, like, we would post data to the beginning of the school year. Right, we brought a lot of bullying policy forward a few months ago, but we dated it to the beginning of the school year, so that so the rules aren't changing on the kids mid-year, anything significant. I don't recall doing anything like that since I've been here, as far as changing rules. Now, if the state changed something significant, then we would have to act pretty quickly and make sure everybody knows about the changes and move forward with that. But we've been pretty good about making sure that we're not changing the rules on the kids mid-game.
Okay. Is it still the easiest handbook review you've done?
Yes.
It is for me. Yes. Yes, sir.
I'll come up with something else to make it more difficult.
Oh, thank you.
Please don't. This is fine.
All right. And then we just had a couple policies. I don't know if you want me to go through them, if you guys had a chance to look at them already, if you have any questions. Okay, we're fine. All right. With that, so I would like to just, for those of you who have not heard, Mr. Palacios has accepted a new position in a different district. He is going to do great things there, no doubt, as he has done great things with us. And I know that you guys have gotten to know and love Mr. Palacios like we all have. So Edgar, wanted to wish you luck, wish you well. I know you will be a friend with all of us, and I know you're going to do great things in your new district. So good luck and congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you, Edgar, for everything you did for our district. We're really going to miss you, but we so appreciate all the hard work, really.
And I am also happy to announce with that Mr. Ovando, Charles, who is co-presenting with Edgar, will be replacing Edgar. Like, nobody could ever replace Edgar. But Mr. Ovando is certainly a welcomed addition to our team. Charles has been with the district for 6 years. Charles is currently the department chair at Sandberg of Social Studies, World Language and Art. Prior to that, he was the DC over at Stagg for a few years, and prior to that, he worked at York High School, right, Charles?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So we are delighted to have him working with us now in district office. He and Edgar have been working on his transition. He's been coming to meetings with us starting this morning. So we are super, super excited to have him working with us. And I know he's going to be a wonderful addition to Student Services Committee as well. So welcome, Charles.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. That's all we have, friends. I don't know if there's any other questions. Melissa, if there's anything you have?
No, I just appreciate everyone on the committee. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm sorry we couldn't meet in person, but I'm glad you could get an update at the end of the year wrap up here, even though it's a strange May for all of us. I'm glad we were able to say a proper goodbye to Edgar. I'm sorry we're not doing that in person, and a proper hello to Charles. And we welcome you to our team, and I look forward to seeing how the transition from the end of the school year to the summer sessions goes. And I appreciate all of your hard work, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you. I get to see
Thanks,
everybody now. All right. All right. You guys have a lovely evening. Take care. Be safe and be well.
Good night,
Thanks, everybody. You too, everyone.
All right.
Safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.